document that lays that out?
No, I mean, we mentioned a little bit just in our scope, just, about the need to kind of, again, kind of represent, some businesses, entrepreneurs, et cetera. We don't really have a formal document. Again, we like to keep it fairly flexible based on the community. I think it's also important to remember too, in terms of, this process in context of your upcoming comprehensive plan. I'm not sure what the schedule is for that in terms of moving forward, but that'll also be an opportunity to have a wider spectrum of community input and advisory groups, et cetera. So I think this will be a little bit more, I think, of business focus for this aspect.
Because I'm just kind of playing out in my head, because obviously I work with my colleague Councilmember Smotherson, but we call somebody up and say, hey, would you be interested? And they're like, what is it? What am I doing? Like if some talking points or something.
Sure.
To kind of walk them through exactly.
And we could definitely work through staff in terms of supplying a council like a one-page overview in terms of what the steering committee would entail. So
as we try to recruit folks.
Yeah.
I would urge my colleagues, if we take the route where the council members are selecting, that we probably all have an opportunity to at least get an idea who everybody is, so that we make sure that we've got, in my mind, the appropriate diversification throughout our community. I think if you look at the EDRST board, you do see a pretty diverse group. You've also got some business owners there as well. So I think we're all pretty cognizant of that. And if you go I'm saying if, I'm not sure who the final determinant is on whether we turn left or we turn right on that, but I would tend to want council to be able to put some folks in there, because I think what we have historically come across in the past was that when you have a board that is 100% appointed by the mayor, and then you have a council that's not always in sync, then you get a little bit out of sync. And so clearly, I think I've appointed several of those members. I think it'd be good for you folks to be able to appoint members to this ad hoc group, and then we just make sure that we've kind of got all of our bases covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think, it sounds like the appointees by the council, and we can work with staff in terms of kind of providing a one-page overview. So as you talk with your constituents about initially serving, you would have a basis of work. So, great, thank you.
Thank you again for coming out on such a snowy evening. Mr. Rose, number 2.
Honorable Mayor and Council, this next item asks you to consider a conditional use permit, PC 19-08, upgrading of equipment at their existing telecommunications monopole facility. I would ask for Planning Director Cross to come up and give a brief overview of staff's report. Mr. Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Mayor, Council, good evening. As Mr. Rose touched on, this is kind of a unique request. It's really an addition to an existing monopole tower that Sprint has. If you look at our zoning ordinance, and specifically the way it's written in section 400-1390, it's got what we call a first preference type of tower site, and that's basically a co-locate antenna. This is basically a flagpole, a rather large flagpole, that already has some existing co-locates, but they are camouflaged within the pole itself. So what's happening now is Sprint is actually making a request to upgrade their equipment. The upgrade of this equipment now requires them to put them on the exterior of the pole, which now results in this not being a permitted right as a co-locate first preference site. As a result, section 400-1395 of our ordinance now requires us to obtain a conditional use permit prior to staff being able to issue a building permit for the erection of this new co-locate antenna and equipment on the site. This was heard at the Planning Commission. They conducted the public hearing. I believe it was on the 23rd. They recommended approval of this request with a couple conditions, and specifically those conditions were that there could be no advertising on the site, and the paint of the equipment must match what's already there, so it has to be white. So the goal was to keep it as camouflaged as they could while allowing Sprint to upgrade their equipment. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, and ask that you move forward on the request.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Just a quick question, Mr. Cross, and that is, does the equipment that's going to now be attached, so it's going to be outside of that
Yes, sir.
pole? And I don't think that's going to be a problem, but what happens, and I didn't see that in the notes, what happens to the flag?
The flag must stay there. We made it very clear that we wanted it, and you can also put that in the conditions. And if you look, and unfortunately the minutes aren't completely ready yet, but one of the things we touched on was that we did not want the triangular antennas to be above a certain height because we did not want them to distract from the flag itself as they looked at it. And I think they've done the best they can to ensure that.
Any other questions? Thank you. Hearing none, a motion to approve item number K2. Motion by Ms. Carr, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, this item just provides you with an update on the Novus project. We met with the Novus attorneys today. They shared with us that they are continuing to seek financing for the land acquisition as well as the construction of the project. With that in mind, they forwarded out letters previously to residents in the RPA 1 section of the project, indicating that they are looking at relocation assistance and sharing with them the city's contact for the relocation assistance office. The office will not be set up, or I won't be asking for authorization from the mayor and council to establish the city's office of relocation assistance until the financing has been resolved for the entire project. And so it is certainly my intention to have our Economic Development Director, Libby Tucker, forwarded out either a letter or a postcard to the residents in the RPA 1 section of the project, notifying them of the intention to ask for authorization from the council to establish the relocation assistance office after the financing for the project is in place. That concludes my update and would answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the body? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Rose. Let's move forward. There is no unfinished business. There is no new business. Any member of council would like to make a report from any of their commissions? Ms. Carr.
The Stormwater Task Force voted to accept the report. It is being put in final form and will be bound and presented to the council. And at some time after the first of the year, they will make a presentation at a study session so that the entire council may ask questions. So I'm feeling really positive about this.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Smotherson.
Yes, I just wanted to briefly announce to everyone in the council the Arts and Letters Returning Artists, celebration, and that's going to be November 13th, which is this Wednesday, and so again at 7 p.m. at the high school. And again, the returning artist that's being appreciated and awarded is Christopher J. Watkins. Again, that's this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Thank you.
No other business before the council regarding commissions. Any council comments? Wow. Hearing no council comments, a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Hale, seconded by Mr. McMahon. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much for coming out. Please drive safely.